have in my hand a Whyte 5x24 satellite and terrestrial multi-switch. It's available with free delivery directly from freetv.ie. So the basic idea of this is to take a feed from an 80 centimeter satellite such as this, fixed with either a traditional quattro LNB, which is normally used with multi-switches, or indeed this one will actually work directly from a quad LNB. And what we can do then is we can feed up to 24 different satellite points within, for instance, an apartment block, a small hotel, a B&B, a very large house, possibly, directly with up to 24 satellite feeds. So traditionally we'll say a single satellite feed at most locations is not seen as sufficient now. A lot of people like 2 satellite feeds because it's what you require if you have a Sky Plus box or a Humax twin tuner box, for instance. Okay, so the reason that it's called a 5 input is a quad or a quattro LNB will give 4 inputs here: vertical high and low, horizontal high and low. By splitting the signal into 4 and running it down like this, we can actually split it back that down in to really, in theory, an infinite amount of times, but on this particular model, up to 24 outputs. The 5th cable is a terrestrial input, so if we had a UHF aerial, we can actually feed it through the same cable system and simply split that back out to a satellite and terrestrial signal by using a diplexer wall plate, okay? We'll have that as an associated product for this on the website. So basically what will happen then is you have your total 5 inputs, and then you're looking and you say, well, I want to have outputs here, what am I going to do? We'll have 12 outputs on the bottom, 12 on the top, and then you are using this power unit here to power the overall thing. So it comes with a 3-pin plug designed specifically for the Irish and UK market. And something like this would be mounted normally in you might have comms room, you might have it in an attic space, basically where all the cables coming from the various locations that you're trying to run satellite signal to terminate. And then you'll have something like this satellite receiver here, which has a satellite input on it. And indeed, you see this is a combo box and it's terrestrial input as well. And you can use that faceplate that I mentioned to actually run both satellite and terrestrial through a single cable right to the end point, okay? So, this particular model here is called the 5 Lite. So there's 5 inputs on it, and it's light simply because the price point on it's aimed at a part of the market, and there's more complicated versions of this. So for instance, just so you didn't want a single satellite running to it, but you actually wanted multiple satellites. So the single satellite that you'd be using in Ireland and the UK would be the Astra 2 satellite. The BBCs, the ITVs, all the Freesat channels, and indeed all the Sky Sports, etc. is all on Astra 2. So that single satellite dish will do for you. But if you had, let's say, Germans or Polish or whatever like that, you might want to add on Astra 1 or Hotbird, well, some of these channels directly onto it. So you can have indeed multiple satellite inputs on it. And then instead of having a 5 input, you'd have a 9 input, etc. And it'll just build out from there. It could become quite complicated. So the vast majority of sales we have will be in the range of the 5 lights. So inside that you're going to have the different outputs, an 8-channel output, 16, 24 or 32 is the largest we currently stock. Now what will happen if you need to have more than, let's say, 24 or more than 32 channels, which is the largest in our range, how do you overcome that problem? Well, traditionally what you would do is you'd have there'd be 2 approaches you could have to it. You could put up a second satellite dish with another quattro and another TV aerial, feed it down and add on extra ones, but that's obviously unsightly and there's a cost element to it, particularly if, as I had said earlier, you could have in theory multiple, infinite number of satellite feeds coming off a single dish. So what you would traditionally do is you'd have a thing called a cascade system. So you have 5 inputs here, your outputs, but also another 5 outputs here that let you go on and feed another multi-switch further down the line. But that's a pain in the ass, and the reason that it is it just adds to the complexity of stocking multi-switches. So do you want cascade or non-cascade? Do you really need it? Do you want to pay the extra money for it? All the rest of it. So what Whyte's quite brilliantly did was they came along and they said, let's come along with a 5-way 2-way splitter. Okay, so you run your 5 inputs here, similar to what you would have run in here, and you have 5 outputs coming to it. So if we imagine a satellite dish with a TV aerial, we run the 5 cables instead of the multi-switch directly in here. We run the 5 cables out into our multi-switch, and then we put this and run it to another multi-switch. Okay, so we could add on another system here with 8, 16, 24, 32 outputs on it, and build out and make it scalable in that manner. So in that way we've avoided the need to stock cascade systems at all. So I think this is a much better one, because technically this is a great solution. number one. And the second thing about it is it's a very cost effective, because all of a sudden, instead of doing low volumes of lots of different things, they're just saying these switches are going to be quite popular, let's make 1,000 and we'll sell them cheap. And that's exactly what they've done. Now let's talk about when we're in the marketplace, what's our choices in terms of multi-switches? Well, you can go with German multi-switches. Multi-switches are very, very common over in Germany, and it makes them cheap. The big disadvantage of going with German multi-switches is they don't normally use the higher end of the UHF spectrum that we're using in Ireland and the UK. Their multi-switches are equally limited there. So we found with a lot of the suppliers in Germany that we had used traditionally, they just don't work well in the UK marketplace, because if you use a high frequency transmitter near you, it just won't work well for you. So Whytes, and then you'd have the high-end ones like Triax, are quite pricey, but very, very good. So what Whytes have done is they've come along and said, we want to have a great range that's relevant in the marketplace. We want to have the highest technical specifications, and we're going to benchmark our prices to be about 25% below the market leader, which would normally be counted as Triax, because they are a great company, to say. And it's been devastatingly effectively for Whytes. It's a UK company set up, I think, around 2013. They've been selling their marketplaces, and in most regions in the UK, they're probably at about a 75 or 80% market share now. And they've done it through great products, great support, and good pricing as well. So I really, really like them here, and it's really made us a lot more confident in terms of selling into multi-switch markets, because it's something that people can have problems with, particularly if they're inexperienced. But these ones here work all the time. We've never had a faulty Whyte product come back to us here. So it's really what we're going to standardize going into the future, and we're doing the full range that goes with it. So we really are the home of Whyte multi-switches in the Irish, and to a lesser extent the UK market. So that's it anyway, an overview of the Whyte 5x24 satellite and terrestrial multi-switch.